Okay, so we got an 02 Honda Odyssey van. The story of this guy is they took it to a shop, they put a fuel pump in there because it was stalling. I guess it kept acting up, so they went back. They were going to go for a warranty fuel pump. They brought it to our shop. They kind of wanted us to do the warranty work, but we have a suspicion maybe it's not a fuel pump. The story of this is they go to it, it would fire up, and then a little bit into the drive, then it would stall and it would die on them. And typically that's not a fuel pump. Fuel pump, you go to it and it doesn't start, but once it starts, typically it'll stay running. So there is another thing that these old Hondas are known for, and if you're familiar with Hondas, you probably know already. If you think of a vehicle that's early 2000s to 90s that's not starting, of course we got lots of noise in the background, but yeah, if you think of an older Honda that's not starting, immediately you should think of main relay. So we're going to look at that. Okay, so we got our papers. This one kind of shows you where the main relay is. It's underneath the dash, kind of up underneath. It's a little ugly to get to on some vehicles. This one I think is relatively open. And on our wiring diagram, we can see it's right there. It's not like a typical relay, it's a box that's got eight or so wires into it, depending on the model, and they run a whole bunch of stuff from fuel pump to kind of the powers for the injectors and all that. It's almost like an ASD relay on a Chrysler, and these guys are notorious for having bad solder joints, and then with heat they would just crack and you get an open circuit. So if we follow our diagrams, we just go back a little bit. First off, we'll look for a fuel pump. So we see it there, and then if we follow the wire coming back, what do we got there? Wire 7 on the previous page. Because all I'm doing is I'm suspecting that this main relay is going, which is taking out the fuel pump power. That's why we have no fuel pressure. And just doing a quick test, see if this is the issue before we even think about putting someone else's warranty fuel pump in. So if we carry that wire across from the previous page, we go over here, then we're on to wire 9 of the first page. Yeah, there we go. Oh, it's hot in here. So we got wire 9, and we follow that up, and that comes up to wire 4 of the main relay. Which, let me just back you out a little second so I can see. Bring it up a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't make you sick. Hopefully no one clips my legs as they're driving by at 100 kilometers an hour. So we got wire 4 of the main relay is a black with yellow. That should be a decent size. So right next to it we should have a black, which will be a ground, and on the other side, which might be a different row, there's a red with white. Okay, so we're gonna look for a black with yellow. It's the only black with yellow, but there are some yellow blacks. So I'm just gonna see if anything comes out of that when we go to start it. So I'll get you a shot underneath if I can. Okay, so on this one here, it's nice to get to. Some Hondas, that thing is buried, especially some of the Civics. They can be really unpleasant to get to. But yeah, it's just that black box right there. And we can see all our yellow blacks, but we can see that big wire close to that red with white. And that is the wire that we're after. So I'm going to gingerly get up in there. I might even be able to back probe that directly with the test light, because as you can see, the cavities are pretty big. And I'm just going to start it and just see if we have power coming out of there, because I'm suspecting that guy is bad. Okay, so one of the things I like to do is I got these power probe extensions. I don't actually use the power probe itself very often, but I use these extensions all the time. because they're nice banana plug leads, and they got good clamps that I put on the battery. Now this way I know I have a good power source and I have a good ground that I can use for testing. So I'm not worried about my test light hooking it up to a spot that might not be a good ground, and then that throws me for a loop. And then also the good thing about this is a lot of times when you're in spots, it's usually not too hard to find a ground to hook your test light to. But what if you want to go the other way? What if you want to hook your test light to positive and look for a ground? Sometimes that's harder to find. So this way I have nice testing spots. All of my stuff is banana plug, so everything hooks into there. With my test light, I cut the cord so that way I can put a banana plug adapter in there, and then if I do just want the clamp, well, I put a female banana plug in there, then I can hook that up and just have it as like a regular test light. But if I'm using a test light, I'm usually using this guy, that way I know I'm good. So what we can do, we always want to check our connections, so that's lit. But because of this, we also want to make sure that we are hooked up properly, because this is just saying that both of our connections have connection, that we have a power and a ground. But what if I hooked it up backwards? What if that's actually power? What if that's ground? So what I'll do, because I don't feel like going back out there to double check it, and I never assume things, let me see if I can get this in with one hand. Okay, if we have hooked up to power, and then we touch this to something metal, if we can find something metal, there we go. So this confirms that not only are our connections good on here, that we can trust these, but it also confirms that we have them hooked up the right way, so that this side is indeed the power and this side is indeed the ground. So we'll hook that to ground because we are looking for power coming out of that main relay. We'll get our key up in the ignition. Can you see that? We'll get that kind of ready, and let me rig this up. I don't know if I can do this one-handed or not. I'm kind of on the side of the road. I really hope no one runs me over. That would suck. But it is what it is. This is where it got towed to. So we'll work with that. We are black with yellow, so we'll gingerly put that onto, yeah, I know you probably can't see very much, onto the contact. I think we're making connection there. Can you see that? Hopefully. Maybe I can reach out with my other hand and start it. Watch it actually start this time. Hey! That's good. Okay, we're definitely in the black with the yellow. This one should light up. And it doesn't. You ain't gonna, no fuel pump's gonna fix that if you ain't getting power. So, we know nothing's coming out of there. Now, what if we're not making connection? On our, since I'm have you shoved up in an okay spot, I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to switch my test light, hook it up to power, and we should see a ground through the fuel pump, so it should light. There we go. So now we know I'm connected to that wire, and there's a path from this wire all the way back through the fuel pump to a ground, or at least there's a path to a ground somewhere. But we know nothing's coming out of this relay. That's a problem. Let's see if it's a control issue. Okay, so the control side of these main relays are a little goofy, but just to show you it's not an immobilizer issue. So there's our key light. So that immobilizer light does work. Put it in the on position. It goes out. We crank it. Cranking away, it's not on. So it's not an immobilizer issue. So if we go back to our diagram, simple things we can check first. I'm still suspecting that it's that main relay, but maybe it's a control issue. Let's see if we can't get you to spot that. I don't know if we can. So if we look right here, this part, so this is the switch side of the relay that we're interested in. So here's the power side to that switch of the control, or here's A side, and then the other side of that control switch comes over here, and that says hot and start, only in start. So if we follow this blue with orange wire, we should have power when we're in start. Now we know that we have no power there when we're in start, so we're not concerned about what happens once it's actually running. Right now we can deal with it just in the start position. So let's see if we have power there when we're in start. And that's the blue, orange, that's number 2. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that. Make sure I am still, yeah, I am still hooked up to ground. We are still looking for power. That's kind of hard to do one-handed. Let's put that light down. Okay, let's crank it. Let's see if we have the power there. We do. Okay. So we know that side is good. So we're power here. So let's see if we can't get that a better spot, kind of. So if this side of our control of our relay is power, then that means this side here, the green with yellow, at this point should be a ground. As well, we can also follow this wire back, this red with white. That should be a power, hot and on or start. So we're still hooked up to looking for power. So let's check that. Make sure that our power feed is good. Hey, I know lighting's not very good. What you gonna do? Okay, let's see if this lights up. That's our power feed. We should have power and on. Should don't. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's on. So there's our power. And power's there too. So we got a power feed. We got the power feed for the control side of the relay. Now we need to look for the ground on the other side of the control. Let's check that right now. Okay, so here we are. So this green yellow, when this is being commanded closed, because we don't know, maybe the computer's not trying to turn this on for whatever reason. Now I would think that the immobilizer key should still be lit, but our last thing and our only thing left to check is this green yellow. If we see a ground there, then we know we have everything we need for this to work. So this is indeed faulty, because we know that this has path down to our fuel pump, or at least has a path to ground. It's not getting any power there. We know the blue with orange is getting power. We know our power feed is good. So the only thing left is our ground control. So let's check to see if we have ground there. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna switch this to power, because we're now looking for a ground. Okay, so we got that switched to our power. We're looking for a ground. We'll grab our test light, get that out of the way. So if we want to confirm things, we could just touch that. Okay, so we're ready to look for a ground, and we are looking for the green with yellow. Okay, so we see the big white with green. That's not the one we want. It's kind of tucked in a way in that corner there is the green with yellow, and that should turn to a ground. Let's make sure our light is still, get that out of the way. Okay, test light still connected. So our test light is still connected. We are still hooked up, ready to look for a ground. This is our last bit of the test. Okay, shove you in there. Try and get you in a spot where you can see. Now I'm gonna reach up and see. There we go. Nothing's coming out of there. We have everything we need for this to work. Nothing's coming out. So what we can do is let's go back to our relay. We should be able to jumper that. Okay, so if we look here at our relay, if we double check this, when the relay is activated and everything's working, this should close. So our fuel pump circuit will be attached to this power. That's a full-time power feed to, well, it's not a full-time power, but it's hot and on or start. So if what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, you gotta be careful with this. You don't want to backfeed stuff. So this is a hot and on or start. It's not a hot all the time, which is unfortunate, because then we could just completely jumper the two and everything will be good. So we don't know if we're gonna do anything bad by supplying power here when we're not in the on position. So if we jumper it while it's already in on, then we should hear the fuel pump. And if we jumper it while we're in cranking, it should actually start, if this is our only issue. So let me get something set up for that. Okay, so I'm going to supply manual power there with my lead here. I gotta be careful because this is full-time power right now. When I'm cranking, and let's see if it starts. If we look at the fuse, it's a 15 amp fuse, so there shouldn't be too much current flowing through there. But it still might be more than my test lead can handle, so this might damage or burn up. That's why I'm using one of my crappy ones, not one of my good ones, because I might be sacrificing this. No big deal, I get more. So that is back into the black with yellow. I'll get ready to crank it. I'll put the key in the on position. It already is. And I'll get up underneath and we'll see if we can't get this thing to come to life a little bit. And if this were the case, then what we could do is we could jumper the two and at least drive it to the shop. But really, it's just as easy to pop a new one in there, because if we look here, it's not case grounded. Next to very few boxes are case grounded anymore. So when we get a new one, if that's the whole issue, which at this point pretty much has to be, we could just unplug this one, plug the new one in, let it dangle, drive it to the shop, and kind of secure it better later. But if you're in an ugly spot and this is totally the issue, you could jumper those two wires and that would get you to where you need to go so you can get to a better spot. But let's supply power and let's see if it starts. Okay, so this, I apologize for any bad lighting. This might be tricky to do. Yeah, I know you're gonna have fingers in the way, you're gonna have all that stuff, but this would be better with an actual power probe. Then I could turn that on and off with a switch, but I don't feel it going all the way back to the shop to grab that, so you're gonna have to deal with some fingies. So let's get that cranking first. There we go. Bad relay. So all we gotta do, oh shit, fuck. This is a full-time power. Oh, sometimes I surprise myself. What can you do? Let's unplug that. There we go, that's safer. Could still poke me. I'm always surprised I don't poke my eye out with those things, but I do shove them in my fingers a lot. So yeah, all we need to do is get a new one of those. We can just unplug it, plug the connector into the new one. This one actually looks easy enough to do. We could probably just swap it right here. Yeah, but anyways, that's all we need to do is just swap that out and everything will be hunky-dory. No fuel pumps needed. Thank God. I hate doing fuel pumps on old vehicles. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sorry about the lighting in certain spots, and hopefully this helps you out.